Welcome back, ChatMedders, to our third episode of ChatMed. Today we have a very exciting episode here with Mr. Navan Shah, soon to be doctor, and we have our panel here. So if you guys could take a few moments to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so my name is Ryan Singh. I'm currently a sophomore in high school. I'm here with my other host, Navan Shah. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Navan Shah. I'm currently a junior in high school located in southern New Jersey, and I'm also deeply interested in pursuing medicine. And Mr. Shah, it's an incredible opportunity to speak about your journey thus far.
And now for the man of the hour, Mr. Navan Shah. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Navan. And right now I'm a first year medical student at Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. So that's PCOM for short. And I did my undergrad at the University of Pittsburgh. Grew up in New Jersey. And now we're here, first year of medical school and in the COVID time. So definitely a unique experience for first year medical students like yourselves in the future.
Thank you. So for our first topic would be how 7 years versus the accelerated programs versus the traditional program. So to kick us off here, how can students like ourselves kind of decide and analyze which type of program would be best suited for ourselves?
Right. So what I think it comes down to at that point between the accelerated program of 7 years or 8 years, whatever it may be, depending on the school versus the traditional route, I think there's two things that go into it. It's how confident or how sure you are of your career in medicine, specifically as a medical doctor, as well as where you see yourself along the college route. So a lot of people will, apply to these programs, get in or not, and then decide maybe the program's not for them. Maybe they want to explore other options because there are a lot of fields within, a lot of careers within the field of medicine, right? So at the end of the day, you do have to be confident that, this is the route you want. You want to be a medical physician at the end of the day. And that just comes with exposure experience, which I'm sure, avid pre-med high school students like yourselves are getting or have gotten. But at the end of the day, it is your commitment to the field, as well as your commitment to becoming a medical physician.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. That was definitely very insightful. I definitely agree. It's important to know your commitment, to know the confidence, and really know what you actually want. So I'm interested to know, what are your general thoughts on pursuing a regular undergraduate path, which I'm sure you know based on your experience, versus a special program in medicine offered by various different universities?
Right. So you're right. I did 4 years traditional of undergrad. Took my MCAT, did the whole process of applying and whatnot. And while the program is great, like the accelerated programs are great that you can go straight in, I also got to experience, the whole thing, the process that most medical students do go through, which is applying and striving for the best on your MCAT, which everyone does, but getting the most competitive score as possible. And then something in my experience is that, since I did go the traditional route, I had the room, the comfort in, just seeking out other possibilities for careers, just as as an option in my head. Right. So, other fields within medicine, other fields without medicine or outside of medicine. But that actually made me more confident that medicine, going to medical school to become a physician was the right idea. And in addition to that, going the traditional route, one of the most important things that I got out of it was taking a gap year. So I did my 4 years of undergrad, took a year off, did research at the NIH, and then did came to medical school, and that year was very important for me to do well in medical school and to see life outside of school.
Yeah, that was very well put. Thank you again, Mr. Shah. So you explaining these joint medical programs, of course, you being in the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, DO, right?
Right.
So so we're gonna talk about MD versus DO. I heard there's not that many differences, but of course, you being in a DO and you probably have a network of many people in the MD schools. Can you just give us like a brief overview, like what is the difference of for the individuals and listeners that don't know that there's two different ways to be a doctor doctor, MD, or DO?
Right. So basically, it comes down to the degree, and then so DO versus MD, and second, the sort of overall principles or theology behind each degree. So allopathic MD is obviously, treat diseases, illnesses through medication, through surgery, through all your typical medical interventions, whereas osteopathic addresses that, but in addition, they also look at this whole body mind approach. So looking more at an integrative medicine approach, which is termed osteopathic medicine. I, for one, in only a couple months of schooling, have seen the positives of it, and both routes are, just as comparable. You learn all the same things. It really depends on your preference. Any other?
Sorry.
Yeah. Any other? If you have any other like questions for clarification, I can go deeper into it too.
Yeah, well, that was very well put. Like you probably heard of Dr. Mike. He's a famous DO YouTuber, actually. So from what he told me and like from his videos, I learned a lot that right now it's not really a big difference. Right now, really, it's of course there's differences how you learn, right? But like if you're a doctor, you're a doctor. It shouldn't just come back to the degree, right? You spend 4 years in your education, or depending, I heard there's like 3-year medical schools too. So you spend that time and you're a doctor. So, and that's very well put. I heard that. And thank you so much for your answer. So I think if everyone is ready to get into topic 2, is everyone ready?
Yeah, that was great.
So our next topic is basically neuroscience, because we heard that you majored in neuroscience in the University of Pittsburgh. So my first question is basically, I took an introduction class in neuroscience. Of course, it's not like one of those major advanced classes in college, right? But I took an introduction class at a college, and I learned that there's like a lot of fields you can go into neuroscience, right? So from you saying that you have done many research, a lot of research in college and maybe like during med school right now, right? I wanted to ask, like, what field interested you the most in neuroscience when you did the undergrad major there, and why did that field interest you in neuroscience?
Yeah, that's a good question. So within neuroscience, I think a lot of my attention and research interests went towards substance use disorders, as well as other mood disorders, other anxiety disorders, which does bridge the gap between psychology and neuroscience. But that's how research is. It's very bridged between those in the field of substance use. So my research was at NIH was on the gut-brain axis, specifically with alcohol use disorder. And so that was what was most interesting to me. And I had a lot of classes focused on the topic in the past, of how like neuropharmacology is where they explain drugs and how they affect this nervous system, right? And so a class like your introduction class, a lot of classes in neuroscience in college and beyond branch off that introduction to neuroscience class. So, the information you learn there can be applied on a wide variety in the field later.
Thank you, Mr. Shah, for that response. I definitely agree. It's very important to recognize that the two gaps are being bridged in neuroscience. It obviously involves different aspects, different studies, psychology, and also you include pharmacology too. So I'm interested. How did your major in neuroscience overall just shape your learning experience as a pre-med student, and what difficulties did you face along the way?
Yeah. So when people hear neuroscience, especially like family, friends, they think it's very complex. Um, but the truth of the matter is, it's just like your bio. It just came more natural to me, and but in the long term, what neuroscience did for me was it's actually helped me a lot in med school with understanding how the body works, being able to apply the principles of the nervous system to the rest of the body, as well as the reason I picked neuroscience as a major and research interest and beyond was because I was solely interested in it, and just being able to go through college and beyond, having that interest and keeping that interest, uh, keeps me very hopeful for the future. Um, that my interests are just rebounding one after the other, and I think the same will occur for you guys once you choose to follow your interests.
Yeah, I agree with you there that interest should be the way you influence a decision when you're choosing a major, like you said. So to build off of that, how could our like audience kind of find their interests and to kind of choose their major? Like what ways did you find your passion in neuroscience?
Yeah. So there's the classes you take in high school, they give you a lot of an idea of uh, what your interests are, and then it's just up to you to uh, search more, whether it's the internet, whether it's people in the field, whether it's books, um, and just keep that interest going. There's always more to know.
Yeah, that was very well put forward again. I want to ask one more quick question. Basically, from you being having major achievements, like really good achievements in your life, I wanted to ask you, like, I know many people that are like studying and don't studying a lot, like pulling all-nighters and that. I wanted to ask your experience, like, of course you're not like, I don't know if you're working or not right now, but I wanted to ask, like, in undergrad, and if you can relate this to medical school as your first year, how do you relate your work or like school life balance? Because of course you need like a little bit life balance to control like the stress, all that work, right? So can you give like us like a scenario or example that happened to
Yeah,
you?
you need a balance at the end of the day, and there's a lot of people that'll tell you have to pull all-nighters or make it seem like you have to, but don't listen to them. You'll be fine in the future. Just it's all about time management, organization. So I mean, I've pulled like one all-nighter maybe, in my 5 years of college and after. Um, it's really not necessary. Don't kill yourself over this stuff. But at the same time, there's always a way to plan ahead of time. So there's a study with a method, not don't or actually what I like to hear is study smart, not hard. That's much more important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely agree with that. It's not always how much you study, it's like how you study and how you're managing your time to find your successes in your academic career or pretty much anywhere. So, our last topic would be kind of like creating that college profile for people to express themselves to the colleges, because when they're seeing your application, they're not seeing you as a person, they're more seeing your they're trying to see, are you actually passionate about that? So do you know like what type of score should a lot of our students and audience kind of shoot for so that they can be going and they can have a wide variety of selections of schools that they can apply to?
Right. So obviously you want to match whatever scores will help you get to where you want to be at the end. So whether that's a 7-year program, whether that's University of Florida, you know, uh, so do your research and see, what scores will make you the most competitive. Obviously, you want to score more, but perfect scores aren't always possible. So, see what scores are realistic and what will make you the most competitive to get into whatever program you're trying to get into, or um, help you even get a connection out of it, something like that. Okay. There's no set score, but you try your best.
Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of people that study. I heard the MCAT is like unpredictable too, right? Like you can study it for months and people can not get like the high achieving scores. It's like an unpredictable test. I heard it's more like analytical thinking. It's not like the SAT where you can plan all the strategies and apply that to the test. I heard the MCAT is like a different animal and a different beast, right?
Right.
So
So you'll see when you get there.
yeah. So thank you again. And like what I like to say is score does not define who you are as a person. You can always achieve like people used to like say how a score does not define who you are, and you have like any examples of how it doesn't define who you are.
Yeah. Actually, the average first year medical student is probably in my class probably 26, 27, and around the country probably 26 or so. So even if you don't get there right away, you will get there if you really want to do it. So it's nice to have the programs, definitely. So you can just go in and get out, but it's not the end of the world if you don't get in right away. Don't be discouraged. There's a lot of things in the path of becoming a physician that discourage you, whether it's grades or hard doctors to deal with, or the list goes on. But as long as you keep that focus, no matter what score you get, it'll get there, whether you're 35 or 22.
So basically for another question is you if you were, I don't know if you had like a little bit of passion in the med field when you're in high school, or you found that passion in college, but if you had like some passion in science, like what extracurriculars can you do if you have a passion? And for our listeners that are planning to go to many other fields like business, architecture, and like environmental science, like I heard many pre-med students, you can major in anything. You can major in history, you can major in animal bio, like I don't know all the majors, but I heard you can major in anything. So I was asking you, what are some ways you can get a taste of that field?
Right. So it's always great to shadow people in the field. That's number one. Shadowing, you can't get too much of that, just because that's what your life is going to look like down the road. Second of all, there's so much information online nowadays. Just for the medical field, I have resources. Unfortunately, for other listeners, pursuing business, engineering, like you said, I don't have those same resources, but reach out to people in your field. There's a lot of people you'd be surprised in a field that you're looking towards that will listen to you at such a young age. Reach out to someone. Could be a med student like me, could be a resident, could be a physician, anyone in your field. Reach out to people and make those connections early. That's how you'll get good information. And then extracurriculars, you always want to volunteer. You always want to do something good that you actually are interested in, because if you can keep that going, it doesn't even matter if it's tied to your field at that point. I know a lot of people in med school. I've met actually like a couple people that had volunteered with the Special Olympics for years, and it's not the actual. There's very little tie to particularly medicine with that, but it's the longevity and the the continued interest that really shows who you are as a person.
Thank you for that response. Very insightful. And I agree. Personally, I've done shadowing. I know there's many ways you can actually get involved in different fields and different ways too. And it's also important to really know that it's not just for a specific profile, but it's also just to know your interests, know your passion. And personally for me, as I'm also progressing into applying to college soon, I was interested and curious to know what were some ways you were able to discover how University of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia College of Orthopedic Medicine were the right fit for you?
Yeah. So right, there's so many colleges out there. It's hard to pick, which one is right for you. And so it was hard for me to pick an undergrad. Ultimately, I picked University of Pittsburgh just because it was a strong research university, and especially with healthcare, there was a lot of healthcare going on in associated with the college, and that's something I knew I wanted to get into long term. So I said, that's my best option. Do whatever you can, pros, cons list, wherever it feels right for you. And then eventually med school. I chose, this school felt right to me because of mainly the environment and the strong clinical reputation that PCOM, I call it, my med school, prides itself on. Very clinical med school, so that was something that I was specifically interested in. So right there, I knew it was a good fit for me.
Yeah, that was a great answer too, again. And our last question, if our panel wants to ask another question after me, please do. So my question right now is, so of course we talked about all these great tips and what your experiences are, but we never really got the answer of we never asked you why medicine, right? So, and especially osteopathic medicine, like they're both impressive degrees to get MD or DO, right? So I wanted to ask, what was that spark that said, I want to be a doctor, I want to help others? Of course you want to help others, but what was the spark?
Right. So I had gotten introduced to medicine first through some injuries of mine, 2 ACL surgeries. So that was like my intro to medicine, you could say. And then from there is a spiral effect, really. So a lot of experiences in college really made me sure. But really what came to it was the shadowing and seeing, how these doctors improve the lives of others. And if you have that same will to want to improve the lives of others, then you can't, and the interest for medicine, and you want to strive to be a physician, then, there's nothing that can stop you, really. And that goes for any field, not just medicine, anything in general.
Thank you for that great response. I definitely agree. There's different ways that people actually find their spark, and it's actually important to know that story and to really recognize that. Another last question I had personally for you was that the research. So I'm very passionate about research myself too. I'm interested to know how you got involved. What steps did you take to actually get to NIH and actually conduct that research?
Yeah. So you'll see in undergrad, there's a lot of opportunities, and most of it comes, there's certain research programs you'll see, and you just reach out to people who are doing, you'll see it's very informal. And if you see research, if you see, someone who has a lab that is doing research which you are interested in, or you're interested in how they're doing their research, the methods, then just reach out to them. Emails always work within research. It's not as uniform or standardized as taking an SAT. And then with the NIH, you'll see I got involved with that through the NIH has a sort of a data system where you apply, and then I would reach out to an individual. They're called principal investigators, and they're the people who had the labs at NIH. And so and then if they, if they need someone and they liked my profile and where I'm coming from, then, that's how you get together with these people in research. But right now for you guys, you can just send emails to various people around the New Jersey area and to all the listeners too. Just reach out to people, reach out to the people who are doing research, and even if you don't get it, then try again, or they'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can just tell how you're so passionate about the med field from how the way you're talking, like your experiences. So before we end, is there any other final questions does the panel want to ask Mr. Shah?
Yeah, before we end, I wanted to thank you once again for giving our audience such great insight on the medical field and just telling all of us on how we can get there with our kind of fueling the fire and our passion, and just giving us a little bit more insight on what we're going to face in the future. And that really is a priceless experience that we just gained. So I want to thank you so much for that opportunity again.
Yeah, thank you guys, all three of you. And these are great questions. If you have any more, feel free to reach out to me. You have my email.
So if you want to reach out to Mr. Shah, he said he's giving you can email him. So when we're ending off right now, so I just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Shah. Like there's 24 hours in a day. You spend like an hour with us, and I can just tell you inspired so many people, especially us and the listeners. So I just want to say thank you so much, and our team and the listeners want to wish you the best journey with your with the medical field. And we would love to hear you how it was your medical journey and how you're going to do in residency, fellowship, wherever you would plan to go, right? So before we end, I just want to say check out our organization out, Let's Go Learning. I'll leave the links below and the Instagram handles below. So thank you again for our listeners tuning into our third ever episode of Chat Med. And everyone have a great day, and please keep on hustling and persevering your future endeavors, and have a great day. Bye guys.